your job title, do SEO day in, day out. Quite a lot of you, yes. That's great, because I'm not really going to be talking about SEO today. Like Glenn says, we spend a lot of time building content. We've put out a lot of pieces that are well known and have been very effective. I want to talk a bit more about the process behind some of that, so that you can learn, hey, what's the thought process that might go into the content that I'm making for a client. And when I talk about content, we'll look at some examples. We're going to be talking about big things, small things, anything from 140 character tweet to a huge investment piece of content. I'm going to show some examples of work we've done, some examples from other folks. I want to start with this client. They are project management software. They're explicitly for creative people, designers and developers who are collaborating on projects. And they came to us looking for some content, so we helped them out. We built some stuff. This was something we were really excited about doing. We thought it's going to be perfect for their audience. It's the daily routines of famous creative people. We found a bunch of data about different designers and writers and artists and creative folks from the present day, from the last century. And we created this beautiful interactive infographic of how these people spend their day. When do they sleep? When do they work? When do they get inspired? You can click on it, you can play with the data, you can learn a bunch. It was perfectly on message for their audience. We had a lot of fun building it. People had a lot of fun playing with it, and it did really well as far as link acquisition and likes and links and shares and everything else. We got coverage from every site we could have possibly wanted. We got talked about and shared on all these news sites and creative sites and everything else. We thought we were doing so well. And then, oh yeah, links went up as well. We had a bunch of links on like week 1 when we launched this. It's still, this is like 3 years later now, and I can tell these stories. It still earns an average of 1 new linking root domain every single day. If we didn't do anything else with this piece this year, it would earn another 300 or 400 links. This is great evergreen content. This was the client's reaction. They fired us about a month after we put this out. It was not working for them. It wasn't hitting the goals they expected. We had a vision in our mind of how this content was going to work and play out for them. There was a mismatch between what we'd promised that client, what we'd explained to them, what we told them about why this content was something worth doing and how it was going to work. And because we're an agency, we consult with people, we get to debug and go over these issues and find out what we did wrong. And it's a slight tangent, but I think there are 2 modes in which we fail when we look back at some of these things. Sometimes we set out to do a thing, but we just didn't do it well. The thing we planned to do, we didn't. We failed to succeed at. The other type of failure is when we did well at the thing we planned to do, but it was the wrong thing. Essentially, I think of these as execution failures, where we didn't do well, and there, we're not going to talk so much about that today. More on the strategic side, we're talking about content strategy. How do we avoid planning to do the wrong thing? In this case, for our project management client, for the creative piece, it worked really well, but it was the wrong thing to have done at the time. And so, because we're talking about strategy, content strategy, I want to just mention what we mean by that, how I think about it. And in my mind, strategy is this link between the objectives, the things you want to achieve, and the tactics, the things you're actually going to do. It's important, and I think it's worth mentioning here, because this is a very intentional intermediate step. And also, it can be controversial, perhaps. When you look at objectives, when you look at the things you want to achieve, everybody might have different ideas about what's the strategy, what's the best strategy to hit those objectives. What actually happens is, once you've determined a strategy, it's relatively easy to turn that into tactics. There's less opportunity for ambiguity in how we actually put that into action. And you know a strategy has been well set because it answers these questions. Here's our objectives, therefore, here's the strategy we're going to go after, therefore, here are the tactics we're going to use. And you can test this in the reverse direction as well. When someone says, here's your to-do list, here are your tactics, why are you doing those? You say, because this is the strategy we have planned. Why is this our strategy? Because here's the objectives we're trying to achieve. And it's even easier to tell when this is broken, when this isn't going wrong. When someone comes along and says, all right, we need to put all our content budget into Snapchat. And you say, why? And they say, because Business Insider told me it's the future of marketing. Well, that's not a great answer. We need to put all our investment into link acquisition from top-tier websites. Why? I don't know, because I saw a Whiteboard Friday and they said we need lots of links. It's like, that's not a strategy. Whiteboard Friday is great. I'm not going to double it. So, yeah, I mentioned this to set the scene. Also, I will use this analogy of the nested dolls of strategy. Businesses work like this. And I don't want to dwell on it too much, but here's your chief executive with business objectives, huge plans that are sort of way beyond the stuff we're thinking about day to day. He has a business strategy and some business tactics, and those tactics might then get farmed out to an operations team and a legal team and sales and marketing and product and everything else. The marketing team, for instance, will then have their marketing objectives, and they'll turn that into marketing strategy, into marketing tactics. Some of those tactics might be around different marketing channels. There might be search, content, what have you. And if you're working in SEO, or if you're working in content part of the team or something else, then you now have your objectives. You've been told what you need to go and achieve, and to execute on that, you can turn it into strategy and tactics. And so one thing I often remind my team at Distilled, and folks I'm working with, is think about where in this set of nesting dolls you are sitting at this moment. I had a client come to us last week and they said, Rob, we need you to do some keyword research, because we need 1 million keywords that we're going to write content about. We're going to write 1 million new pages on the site this year. I was like, wow, we're down here right now. Our objective is 1 million keywords. I was like, I've got to inquire about the next nesting doll. Like, what's your objective and strategy? Where the tactical outcome was give me 1 million keywords. So I'll tell you more about that once we finish those conversations. What I also want to make sure we're not doing here is using this idea of strategizing as something that distracts you and takes time away from you getting things done. It's a very good way to waste a bunch of time if you don't want to do any real work. Strategizing can take months. You can spend all your time planning and working through this process. I think this portion of turning objectives into strategy into tactics should take weeks, days, hours, ideally. And the process I'm going to show you today is something that once you think about it and imbue it and have it in your mind, you can often just do it without too much thought. This is a process that you can just talk through and seem smart because you have some questions to ask on the process you can go through. And like I say, you might be spending a lot of time doing SEO. Maybe you work in an adjacent part of the niche. Maybe you're focused on paid search or social media or something else. But I'm explicitly going to try and get you to think bigger today. Think about content in all its forms. And hopefully you'll see that this makes you better at your role, makes you better able to work alongside other people in your organization or in your client organizations. But also will make you better at your job and hopefully can inspire you to new and bigger things as well. And so I'm going to ask you to answer 5 questions before you start producing content. And very intentionally, the first question that we're asking is about our audience. Who are we making this content for? We put our audience way up front because content with no audience is nothing. Who are we trying to reach with this content? I had a fashion client last year, and they came to us and they said, "Rob, we want you to make some content for our big fashion brand." I said, "All right, who's the audience for your content? Who are your customers?" And they said, "We know this, but it's in work. It's women under 35 and women over 35." No, we have to go and do that. When I'm writing content, if I'm writing a blog post or a tweet or a commercial landing page or a product page or something else, I'm not sitting there trying to think about all the people who might ever view this page. I'm thinking typically about one person. I'm writing this blog post for Maria. She's the person I have in my mind right now. Maybe I explicitly know Maria. Maybe she's a customer of the clients that I've met. Maybe she's someone I've built a picture of in my head. And for most businesses, we'll have between 2 and 4 of these personas that we're targeting. For this business, we have Alex, we have Richard, we have Maria. Empire Flippers mentioned, you mentioned Flipper Fred, right? One of your personas, yeah. Anybody else have Anybody else have personas that they're explicitly targeting with their business or their content? See if you had to go up. It's good. Tell me about one of your personas. Police officers who work specifically in equipment procurement. That's great. So some of our clients come to us knowing this stuff, some don't. And so this can be a long drawn-out process, or it could be a short conversation. And these are some of the things that we ask about with their audience, with their potential customers, with their existing customers. And sure, there's some stuff about demographics, or where they live, or the job role they have, how much money they make, all this kind of thing. But more interesting is some of these things about their interests, their motivations, the things that make them want to do well in their job or in life, their values, the beliefs they have that make them choose certain decisions, to make them think in certain ways. And from talking to potential customers, from having an idea about your clients, then you can start to put together an idea of these personas. It's a process that people go through every single day. But you don't just have to think hard and guess at some of this. There's also ways of collecting or finding data that inform it. And, fun fail, apologies. Explicitly, you get to go and ask. This was a survey done by Edelman Consultancy in the US. They asked 11,000 people across 200 brands in a dozen different industries. And more than half of people said, it's really important to me that the brands I like come and ask me about me and my needs and everything else. And in contrast to that, only 10% of customers thought we were doing a good job of this. So we are getting a failing grade right now. You want to go and ask customers? We'll often start by sending out a survey. Email 100 or 1,000 people on their email list. Say, hey, we're doing some market research. We'll give you an Amazon gift card if you have some questions for us, and help us out with this. And we'll get some responses. And beyond demographics and knowing where they live and how old they are, we get to find out things about maybe why they went with this company. In this case, this was a consumer electronics company. And the majority of people said they became a customer because they cared about the quality of the product. That's good to know. Halfway down the list was price. Near the bottom of the list was the option to actually speak to an expert in store. So, okay, now I have a better understanding. And then you can start to group some of these people together. When you look at the data, you see there are certain emergent groups. Get on the phone with a few of them, interview them. And then this is the point where you get to actually hear some explicit quotes. You get to hear about why they think the way they do. You get to grill them on a few things. And then some of these can go on to become Flipper Fred or person in the police officer or something else. And you get to basically not real people. There's also, of course, just a ton of data we have these days about man on the street, the people who come to your website. I ran this for Empire Flippers actually. I put their Twitter feed through Follow-On, which is currently a Moz tool, but you'll always be able to find it at follow-on.com. Unsurprisingly, I guess, the people who follow Empire Flippers on Twitter describe themselves as, this is based on their own descriptions, their fans describe themselves as social media people, internet marketing, digital marketing. So yeah, that makes sense. But then suddenly you get down to things like real estate. It's like, that's interesting. There's a lot of overlap here between people who are interested in real estate investments and buying and selling websites. Maybe Empire Flippers would start thinking about the content they're going to make, and maybe there's something to do with that intersection. There's also, if you go down here, lots of people talk about making money, online money, passive income, digital nomad. And actually, Empire Flippers have done a good job. I took a look at their site after looking at this data, and they've made podcasts and they've made blog posts and content that appeals to those folks who want to do a 4-hour work week and travel the world and be a digital nomad. And so based on this kind of data, you get more of those insights. You can look at Google Analytics. There's a little bit of trust I put in this data. It tells you about the market segments and the affinities that people who visit your website have. But of course, what you can do with this data is start to segment it. Let's only look at the demographics and psychographics of the top 20% of our visitors by revenue. Let's only look at the demographics of converting visitors. We also sometimes do surveys. So this is for a brand in the US called Zuli. They're basically a daily deals site for moms. They sell fashion and clothes and all this kind of thing. I ran a survey for them to find out how many moms in the US had heard of them to begin with. So this was using Google Consumer Surveys, a bunch of other tools, but I filtered it down to women with at least one kid under 12 and asked them which of these sites have you heard of from Zulily and a bunch of competitors. And it turned out that some of the competitors had brand awareness. Zulily had like 70–75% of people had heard of them already. So immediately, like, I'm not going to be worried about trying to get people to have heard of the brand. This is going to be way more about activation for them. Let's take all these people who've heard of them, but need to make their very first purchase. So we go through this process, and here we go. You know, this was for a website. This was for a brand that needed sort of a nice boardroom-ready presentation. And here was one of their personas, Geeky Gary. We have a bunch of information about who he is and the things that influence him, his values and beliefs in life, the process he went through to become a customer. And we actually did this for 3 or 4 different personas this client has. This is very fully fleshed out. This was because they had a ton of budget and wanted this stuff. And actually, all of this work has now not just influenced their content marketing and SEO. This has run through all of their TV and print ads and everything else. And all the advertising they do now is based on the personas that they've identified. And it's worked great. There's a slightly more agile way of doing this, right? It's like, hey, whack up some photos, give them names if we want to, and let's have a few descriptors for these things. The really agile version is, well, I'm just going to do a sketch of these people. Here's my 4 personas, we broadly know what they stand for. But now we've answered, who are we creating this content for? And you've immediately elevated yourself amongst 50 to 60% of the people who are making content on the internet, who are just blasting it at women under 35 and women over 35. Which now lets us answer the second question. When, during the process, do we want them to actually see our content? When do we first want to have an impact on them with this work? And this is where we start thinking about customer journey and buyer life cycles and all this kind of thing. This is the classic customer journey. You know, people become aware of a need to buy a product, and then they go and research a bunch of brands, and then they start to filter this down to become familiar, and then go through consideration, and eventually make a purchase from one of them. Anybody familiar with this process? No hands? Some nodding heads? Yeah. Do you know how old this is? This was put together 120 years ago. And I wish I was a marketer 120 years ago, because this seems so simple. This would have been way more fun. I think more in the idea of customer modes nowadays. People go through these different modes that they're in at different times in their buying process. And here's some examples of them, but they'll move back and forth between these things. Sometimes they are, at one point they're blissfully ignorant. They don't need your product, they don't need the industry you're in. Then they learn some more. Maybe this is a thing they're going to have to worry about every 6 months. Maybe it's something they don't even have to worry about once in their life. It's very different if they're buying an engagement ring or buying an electricity provider or an ISP. And they'll jump around these points and be influenced at different times, and maybe discover some more brands, and maybe get influenced by some different things. Maybe they don't think about it too much and just have passive recommendations given to them. But right up at the beginning of that process, it's worth mentioning there is some trigger that got them thinking about this. Here's this guy who thinks, I deserve a holiday. And maybe he doesn't start researching holidays right away, but he clicks on any Facebook post where he sees someone's really nice picture on a beach. Maybe he opens to the travel section of the newspaper more often than he would have done otherwise. The guy in the middle looks pretty unhappy. My coffee machine is broken. Now in Seattle, that's like the worst thing that can happen to you. So he's probably going to go straight to Google and search for best coffee machine. Opportunistic, the woman down at the bottom. I've never even thought about buying a drone camera. I love these quadricopters. They fly around, they take videos, everything else. I don't know anybody who owns a drone who was one day thinking, I really need to be able to take photos and videos from 100 feet above my house. They saw a drone or they saw some footage and then thought, wow, that looks really cool. Drones and quadricopters and cameras, by virtue of existing, created these opportunistic triggers. And then we end up at some point, hopefully this guy ends up on the beach and this guy buys his coffee maker and she gets to play with the drone. Each of these customers will end up taking their own paths there. There's very different ways to ending up in the same place. I've worked in industries like, actually divorce law is an interesting one. You have some people who think long and hard about getting a divorce, maybe shop around and choose a bunch of different lawyers, and then eventually decide to go with one, get the papers drawn up, and serve it to their spouse. You have another type of customer who's just been told, I want a divorce, and here's the papers, and he needs a lawyer right now. They both end up with a divorce lawyer, and they go there through very different paths. Also, I think sometimes one point in this process to think about your customers are those returning customers as well, or the people who've maybe known you for a long time but have yet to make a purchase. So these are sort of activation, reactivation campaigns that work in a similar way. Point is, we thought about who are we going to try and target with this content, and then we say when in their process, when in the life cycle do we first want to have an impact on them. So we might say, well, for her, it's way up at the trigger stage when she's first understanding emergently that there's a problem here. Some of these people we want to talk to while they're researching, and maybe for some of these personas, we don't need to talk to them until the very last minute. We just need to get them, on the day that they're going to make a purchase. So now you've thought about who we want to talk to, when in their life cycle do we want to put content in front of them. Then they're like, Rob, we've not talked anything about content yet. But the next question is, what message they're actually going to take away from the content. Now we're getting closer to putting pen to paper and actually writing stuff. But at this point, you still have a blank billboard. There's still a big open question of what are we going to show to them? And I frame this in a particular way for a reason. I don't just want someone to see your content and consume it and leave. We want them to take something away from there. Remember a message. Remember something about you. Have some new affinity with your brand. Have a next action, something else. And sometimes these messages they might take away are just about what you do. With the cheapest in the space, or we have the fastest delivery, or the most reliable, or something else. Empire Flippers say, we're a marketplace, we help you sell websites, or buy websites, that's what we do. Sometimes those messages are more benefit-driven. Someone looks at this and says, we'll teach you how to do a thing, or we'll make you more money, or more beautiful, or we'll save you time, or something else. Maybe the message is about the values of the company themselves. Yeah, we pride ourselves on the best customer service, so you can trust that if you work with us, you're going to have a great experience. Sometimes it's really purpose-driven. We exist to make sure that everyone in the world can afford eyeglasses. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep using Empire as an example because they're on stage just now, but we exist to allow entrepreneurs to make money off their passions. Like that's something compelling for people to take away. But we don't just want to get people to our content and have to explicitly tell them this. You don't want to force it down their throats. You have to show it to them, let them infer all this from themselves, rather than just telling you. I've got 2 glasses of whiskey on here. At Distilled, we drink quite a lot of whiskey. That's where the name came from. But I can describe each of these whiskies to you and tell you exactly why one is more flavoursome, smoky, or something else. But both of these whiskey brands chose to explain this and hint at it through their marketing. One of them was Johnny Walker, where flavour is king, and they put a bunch of exploding fruit into their advert. But what I really hear from this advert is, we love people. We want to be at parties. We want exciting, macabre events. We want to be the after dark, unspoken pleasures. Everything's weird. The other whiskey, Glenfiddich, says, we hate people. We want to be as far away from them as possible. The world's your oyster, but you don't have to share it with anyone else if you don't want to. I prefer Glenfiddich. At Distilled, we do this as well. We would love to write blog posts that people read, and put out content that people would share and spend time reading, which literally just say, we're Distilled and we understand your technical issues better than anyone else. And we're great at content, and we're very analytical and extremely data-driven. But those wouldn't be fun posts for anyone. So instead we put out stuff like how to build your mobile-friendly website, or finding your brand's tone of voice, or the best guide to Microsoft Excel for people in SEO. when people love these and they get really widely shared, and these are some posts that still get a ton of traffic years after publishing them on Distilled. But the message people are taking away is, wow, Distilled is technical, or good at content, or really data-driven. We didn't tell them that, we just showed it through the content. And when you're thinking about these differentiating factors, when you're thinking about the message you're sharing, I want to remind you of a particular thing. This was a client we had who sold essentially geeky toys. They sold a bunch of nerdy collectibles, all this kind of thing. And there was a few messages they pushed in their content when we first met them. The price, it was relatively affordable stuff. They had pretty good customer service, free returns, all of this. They had high quality products. It was really, really top-notch products they made. And if I had to rate how much they talked about these things, they basically talked about the quality of their products all the time. This was essentially all they ever talked about. Sometimes they would touch on cost and customer service. Here's what people really cared about. They just wanted to buy some cheap, geeky stuff, put on a shelf, enjoy it, throw it away when it breaks. It didn't matter to them. This stuff was really high quality and going to last for years and years and years. We refer to this as fool's gold. There's a whole process behind this, but if you spend all your time and your content and your marketing talking about things that aren't resonating with those customers or aren't resonating with those customers at that moment you've chosen to talk to them, you are wasting an opportunity or wasting time. And then for these folks, one of the big things they had to do was to reposition when and what they were talking about. Social proof is also worth mentioning as an aspect of the message you might want people to take away. So this was an example from a hoodie manufacturer called American Giant. They didn't have their content focused on, hey, we've got the comfiest, best fitting hoodie. Instead, they made content like this. So this is in Business Insider. It was in a bunch of press. Talking about the wait list for their hoodies. It was so popular. Everybody in San Francisco wanted one, and you had to be on the guest list, the VIP list, just to ever have a chance of buying one of these hoodies. That's ridiculous social proof. That's amazing. We'll not talk about testing today, but yeah. So you've thought about who you're going to talk to. When in the process did you decide to talk to them? And then you think, at that moment, what's the message I want them to go away with? I didn't know you could get a drone that would fly over your house for 20 minutes and take photos. Or, oh, I guess in the thing I'm researching, maybe I could talk to Distilled. They'd be a good option for me. Or, oh, they have some unique value proposition above other people. Or, oh yeah, this product's available in my store and it's in stock and I can go and buy it this afternoon. And this message has to meet the target we're talking to. And now, we think about where we're actually going to get that message. And this is where, if you are an SEO, or a social media marketer, or an email marketer, you come at it through a very particular lens. Let's say we have a fashion client, and I've written a post about the ultimate guide to the little black dress. I think this is important for people to read at some point in their buying process in fashion. And I've written the best page on the internet about it. We often will work with clients to try and produce the best content on the internet about a particular topic because doing a half-assed job gets you no results at all. So where should we put this? On our website? That makes sense. All right, let's get this page up on the website. But that's not the first place someone's going to interact with it because they're not on our website yet. Maybe some existing customers will see this, they'll like it, but we're doing this to try and meet some new people. So I'm an SEO, I've been doing SEO for 10-something years, and so I say, well, obviously, we want to get this page ranking in search results. When someone looks for how to choose a little black dress, which has pretty decent search volume, boom, there we are, great. Now it ranks, now people will come visit it. But I'm looking through this SEO lens. And someone else who spends all their day doing social media might say, now, what we want to do is have social influencers. We need to get this on Twitter, and we're going to have Lindy, who's this very, very popular fashion writer. We'll get her to talk about it. Check out this quick primer on the most versatile piece of clothing in your closet. Yeah, that'll do. That'll get a bunch of likes and retweets and everything else. Maybe if you spend your days doing content PR and outreach and guest posting, you come at this through another lens. You say, no, wait a minute, we shouldn't even be posting this on the brand website. Why don't we go and license it to Cosmo? Time to try and buy a drone at the moment. Maybe the folks first come across this through some viral content. The woman we use as an example, she sees a drone racing video that got to the top of Reddit. It's like, that's cool. This is very emotional. There's no logic or reason behind this. She saw it, it's cool, now she's aware. Maybe then they go and read some guides. I'm going to read a few tech websites, I've got the places I like to go, I'm going to consume some content there. This becomes comparing reviews from real people. Now we're looking at some actual data from people like me, getting closer to purchase. Then I go and compare the exact product pages to the brand I've chosen. Now we need product pages in the mix to tell me, do I want this product to that product to the other product. So they've touched 4 different types of content here in 4 very different places without any one of these. The customer might not have ended up with us and wouldn't have bought our product. But they moved through from awareness to purchase, in this case actually going back between some emotional moments and some rational moments. But I talked in general terms there about some reviews on tech sites. But we can't be that broad when we're getting down to content strategy. Which sites? And this is where, when you've done your groundwork right, everything is so much easier. You say, these personas we have, this person we're trying to market to at the moment, they don't read TechCrunch or Wired, they read Abacus and Verge and Popular Science. These are the places they hang out. Similarly for social, it's one thing to say, we'll get a bunch of content on social media. It's like, but where? And you're equally familiar with the fact that these sites have completely different demographics. Pulling some of the data about Instagram basically dominates for under 30-year-olds. Pinterest and LinkedIn a bit more balanced. None of you would suggest running a campaign to target 65-year-old women on Instagram. You would probably end up on Pinterest for as well. Yeah. So now you can get really specific about where you want to get this content in front. Also worth mentioning that on each of these platforms, excluding pretty much search, every other platform has the opportunity to use these intermediaries. Influencers who can amplify your message and who people really trust. I've picked Emily here, who writes about fashion and home stuff, and pretty much she's the Oprah Winfrey to her followers. If she says something's worth buying or worth tasting or worth reading, then they will jump to her song, and that's great. And this exists across blogs and every different social platform. Likewise, just to show how some of these kind of channels can work together. This example from Business Insider, they did some good PR, made some good content, had it covered on Business Insider, but then what they did is spent a bunch of money to promote this article. They basically paid for something like $10 million views to this page. Probably got super cheap clicks, but got pretty good engagement, pretty good conversion. And I'm going to guess that this paid back in spades because they're still doing it. They're still advertising this post, which is better than advertising the landing page on their website. So here they've used a combination of earned media and what's essentially paid amplification, paid promotion. Also, I just want to give an example that maybe reminds us about the fleetingness of needing our website in this process. This was an example for an electronics manufacturer. They make personal electronics. And their process used to be making a ton of content for their website. All the features and benefits and engagement content, stuff at the top of the funnel, stuff at the bottom of the funnel, and then do a bunch of advertising and spend money to get people to come visit the website and see this content from there. Turned out that less than 10% of the people who bought the product had never even been to the manufacturer's website. All that investment in content, all the promotion to get people there, and still 90% of the customers had never even seen it. So immediately they pulled back on that content investment, pulled back on all that advertising, and put all the effort and the money into making very similar content, but for retail websites. Putting it on the websites that people were visiting, had to visit during the process of buying. He immediately saw a 21% uplift in sales, for actually a little less budget than they'd been spending previously. if any of us could recommend a change that gave our client a 21% uplift in sales, we'd be regaled as heroes every day, right? So you can be a hero for suggestions on these things. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of examples I've got of conversions where you don't even need your website in the process. So now we've been through this, we've answered a bunch of questions. Who are we trying to talk to? When do we want to get our content in front of them? What's the message we want them to hear? And then where are we going to put it? Is it on our website? Or is it on TechCrunch? Or do we want them to see it on Twitter or in the press or anything else? And obviously these are the right choice for the right moment. She is triggered by seeing an article in the press that makes her consider whatever buying journey she then goes on. The final question is really why. This is more about metrics and measurement, analytics. I call it why because we can keep this alliteration going. And there is a way to cheat at content marketing. In fact, or digital marketing in general. And that is just to measure everything. And then you always get to find some number that went up, right? You go and tell your client, hey, engagement's up this month. And a month later you say, hey, cost per click's down this month. And the next month you say, hey, traffic's up. That's nonsense. We don't cheat. What I'll typically think about when we're working on the analytics and measurement portion of content marketing for clients are some of the activities we're doing, and essentially, are we doing the things we set out to do? This just helps us avoid the execution phases. But then, particularly for SEO, there's this split between like leading indicators and success metrics. So ultimately, the success metrics are, we made a bunch of money, and everybody got ready, and everything's fantastic. But it's a flywheel, right? It's not always quick to see the results of this. It can be days or weeks or months before things happen. So we use leading indicators. Is our content being indexed? Are we getting some rankings? Are we getting the traffic we expect from some of the sources? And so this would be an example for one campaign. We might pick the right one or two indicators to be tracking here. But every campaign you're designing, every content strategy you're putting together should have some right metrics behind it to tell you whether you're on the right track and whether things are working. And if the right leading indicators aren't trending in the right direction, then you get an early warning signal that we need to go and address something. So who, when, what, where, and then why? What's the thing we're measuring? If we're going to aim to be in the press or on Twitter or on review sites, it's like, great, how much press coverage did we get? How much social influence do we have, visibility on Twitter? If we're aiming to go on review sites, how much referral traffic are we seeing from that? My leading indicator would be, hey, we're getting coverage from review sites, but no one's clicking through. So should we adjust or stop doing this? I've got 5 or 6 minutes left, so I'm going to just touch on an example of how we did this. Now, I didn't want to just run through a load of examples of awesome content that Distilled put out, which is always fun, but as I promised, it doesn't show the thinking process behind this. So I want to talk to you about a client. I want to talk about a client who does genealogy, lets you research your heritage, find out where your family came from. This is very popular in America, where everybody knows they're an eighth Irish and a quarter Dutch, and maybe there's some Scottish blood in there and everything. So the particular service this client offers is an alternative to doing research. If I know that my great-grandmother was born in Poland and I want to get her birth records, I can fly to Poland, I can go and fill in all the forms at the births and records offices. I probably have to hire a translator to help me out with this. Maybe I want to go and get a photo of a gravestone from a graveyard in Sweden while I'm at it, of a grandfather on my other side. This is a time-consuming process if you want to do any of this properly. This website is essentially a marketplace to helping people do this. So you say, all right, there's someone in Poland who's going to do this for $10 for me, and someone in Sweden, I'll give them $15 and they'll go and photograph this gravestone and send me all the details. So it's a marketplace connecting these people around the world who want genealogy research done, and folks who are willing to do it. Explicitly, we're not focusing on the supply side, but the demand side. We've got 2 particular personas that we identified for this client. Here's Sylvia, the Silver Surfer. She's retired. She's got time on her hands. She's the matriarch of the family records and wants to leave something to the kids and grandkids to let them know, here's where your family came from. She's now got the time to do this, but as tech savvy as she is, she's not going to be getting on a plane and flying around Europe and traveling the world and hiring translators and everything else. She probably needs a cheaper alternative than that. Here's Casey. She is in high school. She loves doing crafts. What else do we know about her? Oh, she's touched on genealogy a bit recently because there was a project to build a family tree. And she actually really enjoyed that and learned a couple of things about her grandparents she didn't know. And now she's excited. Maybe she wants to do some more of this. So when do we want to talk to these people? Well, for Sylvia, we want to access her during that part of the process where she's saying, I need a record from Lithuania, and that's really, really difficult for me. For Casey, we want to get her right at the beginning of this process. Hey, genealogy looks fun. Maybe this is something I enjoy. Plus, I'm crafty and I like scrapbooking. So let's get her years before she's actually going to spend any money with the site. But let's become a friend and engage with her for the long term. What's the next question? What message do we want to take them away? Do we want them to take away from the engagements we have with us? Well, for Sylvia, we want her to know we have experts. You've got needs, you've got problems, we can help you out. You're not going to need translators or flights or anything else. Don't spend thousands of dollars, spend $10 and we'll take care of that for you. For Casey, we just want to tell her, hey, have fun. Genealogy is cool. You don't need all the information. But we've got a bunch of resources for you. We've got some scrapbook templates. We've got some, we've done research on all the software. We've reviewed everything you could possibly need. So, free resources. Come and enjoy it. Where do we want to influence them with this stuff? Well, for Sylvia, probably in search is going to be a big one. When she searches for births, marriages, deaths records in Wrocław, then we want her to find us and not some unhelpful government page. Also, I think we can target her through social. And again, let's be more specific than that. She's a 69-year-old grandma. She's probably on Pinterest and Facebook. Casey isn't on Facebook. She's hanging out on blogs and reading some Instagram posts and maybe on search as well, looking for family tree template, all this kind of thing. So then, how do we put all that into action? Well, here's some articles that now rank. Poland, these up on Poland archives and libraries. Learn about it, and now we have a page where this can rank the terms you were searching for. In Facebook, we can run some ads. We've identified her as being in market for this, so now she sees, oh, look at this. I could find someone to help me out with my family research. Yeah, I can do it with a foreign partner. That sounds awesome. I'm willing to spend a little bit of money. For Casey, she's trawling through Pinterest for scrapbooking treasures. She's going to find some art content on there, and the content we produce and promoted through Pinterest is going to appeal to her. Equally on blogs, maybe this is an appropriate moment for an outreach campaign. We're going to produce a bunch of free resources that can sit on the kind of blogs she reads. Not necessarily genealogy blogs, they're all old and stuffy, haven't been updated in 15 or 20 years. More craft blogs and the kind of fun stuff that she spends time looking at. So just to recap, this process I'm talking to you about, you'll see you can spend a bunch of time on if you want to, or you can run through all of this with a client in less time than it's taking me to talk to you about it today. Who are we trying to target? Let's put some specificity behind who our real customers are. When do you want to get this content in front of them? Are we talking about stuff right at the bottom of the funnel, or do we want to talk to them a year or more before they make a purchase? Then we have a nice long session where we can influence them. What's the message they're going to take away from this? I'm not producing any content unless I know what I want them to hear. Where's this content actually going to end up? Or where are they going to discover it for the first time? On our site, in search, in press, on social? And then how are we going to measure this is working? Because I don't want to do something and find 6 or 12 months later, this hasn't been helping you. And then we get fired. And then that's no fun too. So that's me. There's my email address. There's my Twitter handle. Manila, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rob. We have time for 1 or 2 more questions, so if anyone wants to ask Rob a question about content marketing or SEO, please approach the mic there.
Please do. Most of the time I end up speaking about the SEO stuff, some quite technical things are a lot about like effecting change in organizations or making things happen and persuading your clients to get stuff done. But it's always fun to talk about putting this situation. You've all been sitting there really polite with those dishes and sandwiches in front of you. I was also told that people might be shy and not want to ask questions, which is great, because I'm probably the most shy person in this room. I'm a huge introvert. So please do come and talk to me later. Come be my friend. Alright, well, it looks like everybody wants to enjoy lunch.
Alright, if you're a bit shy right now, I'm sure you'll come up with questions. Please guys, don't hesitate to approach us or any of our speakers for that matter. These are great people. We don't invite jackasses to speak in our conference. Thank you so much, Mr. Rob Ousbey.